Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Driver Spotlight. And today I am joined by a Denny Hamlin Racing team driver for the eNascar iRacing Series, Casey Kirwan. How you doing?
I am fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good, thank you. It's not quite as early in the morning for me, so yes, I've been awake for quite some time. But I do appreciate you popping on and having a little chat here. Your career is obviously you're quite young. You're very young, about 13 years old, but you've done quite a lot over the last couple of years, and I'm really interested as genuinely a fan. I watch you on your streams all the time and stuff, and I tend to watch you over the actual eNascar series stream themselves. So, yeah, I wanted to get you on, have a little discussion about what you've done so far in this very short career that you've had, and you know where you're at right now. So, just a little description about yourself. Maybe give us your age and where you live and all that good stuff. Social security if you have to. But yeah. Just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm 20 years old. I'm from North Carolina, in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, which is NASCAR country in the United States. And then so I just been a big fan of racing my whole life, and just ended up getting into iRacing probably like 8 years ago. Never really took it seriously until probably like 4 years ago, and then just slowly but surely got better at it. Ended up in the DWC of NASCAR on the service, and which has now grown into something pretty big. So and then lately, over the past year and a couple months, started the whole streaming thing. That's been going well, been a lot of fun. So just like having a good time, and thankfully I can do that somewhat professionally. Yes.
NASCAR.
Yes.
You've absolutely blown up. We'll get to all of these points for sure across this whole little conversation. But yeah, you've absolutely blown up over the last sort of year or so. The first time I set eyes on you in a car was in a Grip TV competition in about late 2018, which is the race that my chair broke, and it's also the race where you broke many hearts in two corners. Lest we talk about that better. But it was Rallycross at Summit Point, so does it really count? Probably not.
Probably, yeah.
there was some deaths for sure during that race. Where did it all start for you then? So where did your love for gaming come into fruition? I guess, like, when did you start racing? Perhaps maybe just not even racing, just any sort of gaming, really.
Yeah, so I mean, me and my brother didn't play too many games. I mean, we gamed a little bit. It was more just like we had like a GameCube and a Wii, and like I played like the NASCAR 2005 or the NASCAR 2005 and the NASCAR 2003 games on the GameCube, and I played those freaking a crap ton. That was probably, I played that the most, and we played like some of the baseball games, basketball, mostly just sports games. But really, we didn't play like a whole lot. All I did was just that, if anything, and then I got into iRacing. So really, a lot of it's just been iRacing. So, but yeah, not a bad game to do most of it on, though. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Did you play Tiger Woods on the GameCube? That's when I first started playing Tiger Woods.
No, I played we did have a Tiger Woods game though on computer. I remember that. We played that a little bit if we were like going on vacation. It was something we played in the car because me and my brother like golf for like 6 months. So.
Oh right, cool.
Yes.
Long career.
Yes.
Oh man, that's cool. So so you obviously played the NASCAR games 2003, 2005 on the GameCube. Then you got into iRacing, as you said. When did you first sign up to iRacing?
So I got it for Christmas in 2011. So basically, 2012 on was when I did it, and just my neighbor. It was funny. So my neighbor across the street, he's a big NASCAR fan as well. And so I go over to his house to watch all the races, and he did it a lot, like from when it started in like 2007, and then he just kind of got busy and got away from it 2009, 2010 or so. And then he told me all about it, and I was like, oh, I want to do this so badly. So then I ended up finally getting it, talked my parents into getting it for me, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You're absolutely smashing it right now. Obviously, predominantly an oval racer, but you do dabble in the old IMSA every now and again, and the old special events as well, which is they're really great fun, aren't they?
Oh yes, much fun. Yeah, the road course stuff is always fun to me, especially because, I mean, you learn every time you're in the car on oval, but it's like there's only so much you can learn. Not so much you can learn, but normally 9 times out of 10, it's not like I'm learning a whole lot. It's just improving, if that makes sense. I don't know
Yeah,
how to say
yeah.
that without making it sound horrible.
No,
But
no, I understand. Like you still got to
yeah,
learn when
it's
to
not
stop in the
as much
pit
of a learning
blocks
curve
and
as
stuff
road
like
is
that.
for me, right? So road's just a blast for me to try and learn. Although I get angry at it half the time. But road is like I want. It's something that every time I get in it, I'm learning something new, how to be quicker, or how to suck less at least. So my I rating is very inflated. Don't look at that and think that that's what I am on road. It's just Mazdas at the Roval that got me that high. So any other GT car, I'm a solid like 4K.
Wow, still pretty impressive though, considering you put most of your time into oval racing stuff.
Yeah, I did a lot of it this winter. That whenever we had our off season from DWC, I did so much road compared to oval. So it was a good time.
It's a bit like a professional sports person in either like the NFL or over what you guys call it soccer, football over here. Like they would go and play golf in their leisure. So your leisure is kind of the road version of
Yes.
iRacing, which makes sense. You can kick back, relax, and the results don't really matter as much, I guess. Obviously, you still want to win, but it is an opportunity, especially the team events. I watch the Daytona 24 hours because I was in the split or the time after your race. Or like halfway through your race actually, and like you had like about 20 teams in your little chat and just all having a laugh and just enjoying yourselves, which is really good to see. And you get people like me who just like proper serious, like I need to do well. I just want to get around the circuit. So like envious that you can just jump across from both disciplines really, with the success that you have. So yeah, GG on that, I guess.
Yeah, that was a good time.
We've got your rig on screen right now. You got the old 3 screens. You got your wheel there. Is that Fanatec? It is Fanatec, right?
Yeah. Fanatec 2.5 base.
Well, I'll let you talk us through the old the rig here.
Yeah, so I got Fanatec 2.5 base, the Thrustmaster TH8A shifter, I think is what it's called.
That's correct.
And then the Fanatec V3 pedals, and then I have like 4 rims, which I probably should have sent you a picture of that.
That's right. I can see one of them on the shelf on the right hand side on your stock shelf.
Yeah, so I have the I have like a I don't know if you've heard of. Have you ever heard of MPI, Max Pappas's wheel company?
Yep.
So he makes basically like 90% of the people in NASCAR uses rims, and so I got one of those, a little bit smaller one, used for like kind of like Bandoleros and legend cars, like starter up cars. And so I got one of those on a universal hub. That's what I use for oval. And then I have the Fanatec GT rim, which is what I use for like the Mazdas and the Mustang, those kinds of cars on road. And then I use it for dirt, and I use it for like road course and the NASCAR stuff. That's like my multi-purpose rim if I need it for anything. It's a little bit smaller, so like for road course it's easier to turn left and right. And then I have the Formula rims, obviously, for all the GT and any open wheel stuff I do. Those are very fancy.
It's a pretty cool setup. Like, talking about Max, he actually, I was in Vegas last year for a Logitech G Challenge World Final, and he was head of the stewarding for that competition.
Yeah.
He's ace, top guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
So yeah, it's a really, really cool setup. You got your desk there, and you got your chair and stuff. So it's like, it's nice to look behind the curtain if you like. Because on camera, of course, all you just see is your face and a very well placed set of Nike. So.
Yes.
And a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke, as you guys all have to have on screen these days, which is good. Which is good to see. Obviously, it's good to see big companies like that being involved in these sim racing events, which means that this is effectively. Oh, is this your job now? Is this?
Yes, basically, yeah. But it's not like full blown like living wage or anything yet. But as of right now, I'm doing more with it than I was with my other job. So.
But it's moving
basically full time. But if I just gotta get good and win the $100,000 and then easy. So
get good. I guess it's yours over the last sort of 2-3 years that you've been involved in the sort of top end of the sports and iRacing. Have you noticed like that increase where you think, in a couple of years' time, this is no problem going to be, if you're good enough, a lot of people's jobs.
Yeah, if it keeps going, then I don't see how it couldn't be. Especially for us, like. Last year we did the 2 exhibition races on national TV for NBCSN on it would play during their like NASCAR America time slot, and then we did the finale where Zach Novak won the championship. That was also on national TV. So and then this year our last 6 races straight are all on national TV. So I mean,
Incredible.
if that keeps growing and we could do the whole season, then you never know where it could go. So, but yeah, it's definitely growing, and of course that's the hope everyone would want, is that you can do it as your full-blown job. But yeah, hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, do they put like your social links up on screen and stuff when your face appears, or is it just your name? Because
I think it's just our name.
Oh, so they really need to be investing in you guys by just the simple things of your app for Twitter and stuff like that. And you grow with them, they grow, and obviously, you know, the more people that follow you, when you tweet it out, then they're gonna have more viewers, and you kind of need to help each other. So that's just a little bit weird.
I know they have, I don't know where. I know we had to like give it to them. They put it somewhere. I can't remember where, but I don't think it's on the broadcast though. But then they do like tag you and stuff. Anything that gets tweeted, at least. So even NASCAR does.
I think that's great, but like in broadcast, like it's visual, it's there. Like I think like that's they need to be investing in the drivers, and they need to be trying to increase their profile, and ultimately it's only going to make the sport a lot bigger. So just, I don't know, it's only such a small detail, but for me, like these are the steps that have to be taken for this to grow sufficiently enough to not only have like the top drivers in the world being paid, but like, you know, 2-3 series below them. Eventually they're going to have like a challenger series, for instance. That's just a word I made up for it. But like, and then there's going to be like maybe a super challenger series. Like there could be 3 different series that are run.
Yeah.
And you know, it's an opportunity where there's, you know, sort of 100, 200, 300 people are earning a good enough living from this just because of their own following, perhaps. Doesn't necessarily have to be because of the competition, but people are watching them stream this. Like, obviously, your stream's blown up. I say you're one of the lucky ones. Your content's phenomenal. Like, it deserves the recognition it's getting right now. But, you know, a lot of other people aren't getting that recognition because they haven't been given that bump start. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing really missing is kind of trying to get people's personalities across, and that's all sim racing right now, Casey. In my experience, that's not happening enough. Where people are, you know, competitions are not doing video content, they're not doing profile content about the drivers as much as they probably should be. Like for instance, I follow Formula One. You obviously follow NASCAR. Like I
follow Formula 2, yes.
So you know the traits of the drivers. Like you know that.
Yes.
You know that Kvyat, he's probably gonna dive bomb someone at the inside. You know what I mean? Like we know this because it's. People are talking about it.
Torpedo.
Yeah, exactly. Torpedo. Like, it transpires to the same as this. Like, we need to know what the drivers are like. Obviously, people know what you're like, and that's why you get more and more of a following, is because your stream's doing really, really well. Your social media is doing really, really well. Like, I'm not too sure what Denny Hamlin's like social team are like around you guys, how much content they post out there. But by the looks of things, from me just having a skim through, it looks pretty good. But other teams aren't doing this. And the only way that this is weird, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but the only way this esport's going to grow where loads of people are making money is if everyone works together effectively. You've got your rivals and stuff, but like, so if someone wipes you out, for instance, you need to play on that story, and then you two need to become enemies in the race. There needs to be pantomime heroes and pantomime villains. Like, it doesn't even need to be legit, as long as everyone else thinks it is. But for the most part, you know, you're not going to make something like that up. But yeah, just like the narrative of these races is kind of it's a little bit cut and dry, whereas it doesn't need to be like that. But yeah, it's probably, for me right now, apart from maybe F1 esports, this is probably the biggest series out there now. Is there anything bigger than this?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, all I really know is I don't know what like the Gran Turismo stuff and all that gets, but
I guess there's it's. I guess that one as well. So this is right up there, though. For something that's young as it is, though, in terms of time it's been around, it's grown so quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's one thing I don't know about Gran Turismo. Is it like a championship, or is it just like kind of like one-off like tournament races that they do at those live events?
So they qualify via the game for like these World Tour events, and then via the World Tour events, you then qualify for the World Tour finals. So it is a championship run through the whole season, but each event is individual.
Gotcha.
So it's it's a strange one, and it changes every year. That though, so it's pretty obvious to understand the eNascar. Like it's a championship, you get points every round. Like, and the person with the most points at the end wins. So yeah, it's a lot easier to understand. But the Gran Turismo World Tour is a little bit different in that respect. F1 Esports is exactly the same as this, where it is just like they do 4 weeks, and it's 3 races each week.
Each week, yep.
And they get points based on that. So yes, similar. I think GT Sport may have just gone a little bit OTT with the format really with them. But again, the view numbers are huge. So yeah, it's the NASCAR series, the GT Sport and F1 are the biggest ones out there. But you guys are the youngest ones. So yeah, it speaks volumes as to the interest in oval racing. It's not just oval racing, though, is it? Of course, you've got the 2 road tracks that we briefly discussed before this. But yeah, I just think if they keep learning from the experience, really work hard on getting you the talents profiles across, then you're onto a winner for me. Like when they go to cut to your picture or cut to your video stream of you on the actual main broadcast, like you want to be seeing in the chat, oh yeah, that was the time that. This is just hypothetically. This is the time. Oh, remember when Casey wiped out the whole field that time? Like, or do you remember that time when he started 24th and finished first? Like, those are the stories that need to be put over. But it's just kind of like each race seems a bit too individual. Like it's almost the race before was forgotten about. If that makes sense. Yeah,
and they're doing more with that. It's like why. I mean, I'm sure we may touch on that at some point. But we had a whole media day thing in January.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
They brought everyone to Charlotte. So thankfully for me, I didn't have to go anywhere. I just had to go down and where the Hall of Fame is, and did everything with NASCAR. They got all this bunch of media stuff, and then everyone has they sent everybody in the series a webcam that didn't have one, so that whenever they want to, they have 8 drivers every race on standby, or not on standby, like streaming to or sending them their webcam, and then they'll go through all 8 of them or whoever is like running the best just at some point in the race to put more names to faces.
Yeah, definitely. It's what we want to do. We want to see the good-looking young people on screen. Put a name to the face. We got on screen now the number 3 car. This is the first time you were in the Pro Series, if I'm correct.
Yes, so that was my first time in the Pro Series. So it was also a little bit different back then. It's changed now. So 2016 and 2017 were the 2 years that I ran to try and make it into DWC. And when that was on, it was still the top 30 in points at the end of the DWC season would stay in the series, and then the bottom 10 would fall out. So then it was I think it was 8 races. And it was just like the Pro Series then, it was just Class A. Like, everyone could just run it. But you obviously had to have a high enough I rating to either be in first or second split, basically, to have a shot to make it, to get enough points to make it.
Yeah.
So I ran it in 2016, and I think I finished like 18th in points, so I didn't make it, because you had to finish top 10. And then 2017, we came out, and then where that screenshot is was Texas, the first race, and I won. Which was great. That was a big confidence boost. And so I won 2017, the first race, and then we went all the way through the year, and I was leading the championship going into the final race. I was already clinched into making it into DWC, which was great. But I was leading the championship going to the final race, which was at Daytona, which I still am very what's the word I'm looking for? Not against that it's at Daytona, but definitely not for that it's at Daytona, because it can be very a crapshoot, if you will.
Yeah, it's a lottery, that race.
I had like a 3-point lead or something going in, and it was off of normal iRacing points, so like a position's like 8 or 9 points. So I didn't even have a position,
right?
Really, over him. So and then I lost by 2 spots, so I lost the championship by like 2 points, or I lost by a spot or 2. I can't even remember. But it was I lost by like 2 points. Lost the championship, finished second, but still accomplished the big goal, which was make DWC. So and now it's just blown up from there.
What was the difference then? So obviously you came 18th the first season, didn't quite qualify. What was the difference? Was it your mindset, or did you just feel like you improved with your talent?
I think just more experience. I just got better, honestly, I think. And plus, also some of it too, 2016 was way more stacked of the people that made it in. Because 2016, I can't even remember who was in there, but it was like Ryan Luza, guy who won the championship immediately after making it in. Ryan Luzer was in it. Jimmy Mullis was in it. I can't really remember who else was in it. But even with mine was pretty stacked too. I came in with Keegan, who's now my teammate.
Yeah,
He's
of
won a bunch
course.
of races. But I can't remember. But I think I just got better. I 2016 was so the way the only way I can really base off how I run is you know the NIS Fix series, NASCAR iRacing series Fix.
Yeah, I watch you do it all the time.
Yeah, so that's like the whole 36 weeks fixed setup, so everyone's on the same thing. So that's how I base myself off of, right? Because I can't blame the setup, I can only
No.
blame myself. So 2016, I could win a couple races against the pros, like occasionally, and I would run like 5th or so constantly. Then 2017, I would lead a lot. So I just got better. I would lead a lot, won more races, executed more, and just knew how to finish races better. So just got better with racecraft and everything. So 2017, it's one of those things I don't really know how it changed. I guess just the more and more I did it, the better I got, and then that showed.
Well, it's being in situations and learning from it. So, like for instance, you could be
Yeah.
in a position where like you could go through the middle of 2 cars and you don't take that opportunity, but then eventually you get the confidence and you pull it off, and you realize how to pull something like that off without killing everyone, and then you're more inclined to use that sort of tactic. I know this is just again hypothetically, it's just a random scenario I'm throwing out there, but like just things like that, you gain experience from doing things.
Yeah, and also with like the open setups, I mean, that's probably one of the, I'm horrible at describing things, as you'll probably tell through this whole podcast.
Words.
And yes, words. So like whenever I'm talking to my setup guy, like I if I really think about it, I can give the feedback, and I've talked to him enough where he knows what I'm trying to say. So but I just like I'm like, yeah, it's tight or it's loose. Like it takes a lot for me to try and like really dive into it and what it's doing. So I have to really sit there and think about it. But I definitely think from 2016 to 17, it was more like I knew what the car would need to be fast at these tracks, driving it more. So I knew what I needed to get out of the setup more from my setup guy. So I think that was also a big part of it.
And that's another thing as well. So obviously, when you were in this series, it was just you on your own, right? Like you didn't have the backing of any professionals that understood the.
Yeah,
like,
so we didn't have any. There's no like professional teams, but we had like I was still like working with the same people that I work with now, setup wise.
So they were learning on the job as much as you were.
Well, not really. They were doing it. They've been doing it for. They had people in DWC already. And
Okay.
Kept them in there. It was just me trying to make it.
Yes.
On their stuff, so.
One thing I noticed with your spotter last week to the week before, like the chat was the first week. The chat wasn't the greatest. If that makes any sense to you at all, it just didn't seem.
It wasn't very active. Everyone was just kind of sitting there watching.
It wasn't very clear cut. And then last week, your spotter was phenomenal.
Yeah,
like,
he's insane.
Yeah, ridiculous. Like it was so clear cut. Like I'm sat there and I'm understanding every word, every syllable. I'm understanding from this guy. He's so poignant with it. But yeah, the week before, it just seemed like that was what was missing.
Yeah, so he spots in real life.
Yeah, definitely. You could tell that. He's bloody unbelievable.
So he's been a spotter like up in the northeast of the states, just doing like local short track stuff. And then lately he's been starting to get some gigs. And one of the gigs he had, that's why he wasn't there for the first race, was down like during Daytona 500 week. New Smyrna has like a 5-day thing for late model races and everything. And he went down there to go spot people. So that's why he missed the first race for me. But he had a real life gig. And then he's actually, I think last year he had his first like NASCAR gig. He spotted the Xfinity, like, so NASCAR spotters, like at road courses, they'll have like 3 spread around the track, and he was one of those for Xfinity and Cup, one of the underfunded teams last year at the Glen.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so he's insane. He'll be in NASCAR shortly. And then that was a cool thing too, because I put a clip of one of the videos, or I took a clip of one of the laps whenever I was coming back through the field in that race. And I went from like 12th to 4th, like 4 wide in like 1 lap. And he was calling like 4 wide, like you got to push for the 6, got your 5 wide, now back to 2, back to 3, like all that kind of stuff. And I took a clip of it and put it on Twitter. And then, do you know what Barstool is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so their racing account like quoted it and like posted it and were like, this is insane spotting. Then iRacing retweeted it, Dale Earnhardt Jr. retweeted it. A bunch of other people in the NASCAR world liked it and like were commenting on it. Denny commented on it.
That's good.
And then yeah, it just blew up. It had like, I think it got over to over 100,000 views.
That's phenomenal,
Had
man.
like 1,200, 1,300 likes, something like that. And then his name, we call him B Wilkes. His name's Brandon Wilkinson. We call him B Wilkes, and he got like DMs from a couple of the NASCAR drivers saying how good he was. It was cool. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
It
was
bright
awesome.
future for that guy, because it just like, obviously in racing there's no script. It's so different. Every time you could do that race from last week 1,000 times, and every single time would be a different outcome.
Yeah.
Not in terms of position, but in terms of how the race plays out. And to be able to call it like he's reading a bloody book is ridiculous. That's the only way I can really describe his spotting. Like, it's like he was reading a script. Absolutely phenomenal. It was really, just like, obviously it's great watching you race. It wasn't so great with your pit stop. And yeah, I think that's your next. I think for you, and again, we're just kind of going off a tangent here. I think for you, the next step is being able to throw things like that away from your head. Like, if you can.
Yeah, I get angry.
You're really young. You've got the talent of. If you look at the age around you, you're one of the youngest. So you're nowhere near your peak, but you've got the ability of these drivers that are a lot older. So I would say peak in sim racing, we're looking at around sort of between 25 and 30, 33, I would say, is probably.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
13 more years, I like that.
Yeah, but that, from my experience, I've been involved in a lot of
Yeah.
esports competitions. That's kind of the area I would say is the peak. That's where you understand the most. You've got a lot of experience behind you. But if you can utilize your brain a little bit better in terms of getting over incidents in races or getting over making mistakes yourself, because like this is how the only way I can describe to you is that mistake you made last week in the pits. It doesn't matter how much you scream and shout about it. It's happened. You can't change it, and you just kind of got to move on. And you almost won that race. Of course, you burnt the tires out, but maybe those sort of 3-4 laps that you did really heated, you could have gained a couple of seconds, and you might have been right up the front of the pack a little bit earlier. So. It's I think that's the only thing lacking or missing from your game. Really, is just your brain. As I say, I'm not your dad. Sorry, I'm just.
Oh no, it definitely is, and especially not only that, but also like the nerves factor. Like, I get in my own head way too much, like overthink things. Like, that's how it even like caused that situation. And I got better with that last year. Like, that's like whenever I won the race last year and then had a bunch of like top 5, top 10s in a row in the season. That was a lot of it. Which just it wasn't. I never didn't have the speed. I didn't just all of a sudden gain speed. It just I was able to. Like, keep my head in it the whole race and just put the whole race together. But like for me, like a lot of times I'll just be like, don't screw this up, and then it gets in your head that you don't want to screw it up so bad, then you screw it up more. So.
Well, that's again. I don't want to patronize you in the slightest here, but that's age. That is just age.
Yeah.
That will only ever come with experience. There are these.
Yeah, the more experience, the less nervous you'll get, I'm sure.
There are freaks out there that just don't have nerves. Like I don't know. They're like lizards or some shit. But like.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
But for someone like yourself, it'll only come with experience. So it's just being in that situation and learning how to deal with that situation. For when it happens again, you've done it. You're like, I've done that. I can lean on that experience. So that's basic.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do apart from just go out there and learn from every experience you do. Sorry, it's coming to a bit of a sorry, I don't mean to preach here to you.
Oh no, it's good. No, it's and then the other thing too is like, I probably sound like a crying little baby on stream, but I had like. For me, I feel like I have to vent, because if I don't get it out, I need to get it out quick though. A lot of times I'll vent for like 5 laps, like just rage. But I know, but if I get it out quick, I gotta get it out, or I'll probably internally implode. So I have to, rage for a minute.
Yeah, but that will change.
And then I'm good. And then, but then I remember I got really mad at that in the last race, because then not only did screwing myself lose me all that time, but like we pitted early, so. Then I was also coming out behind and slightly in front of people who had like 3-4 lap fresher tires than me now because of my mistake. So I was just gonna get eaten alive. So I was big anger. And but
understandable. Like, it's a high pressure environment.
Yeah, but a lot of times when that happens, then it kind of brought upon what happened when I got lucky with the caution that lined everything back up, even though I rear-acted 25th. But I just kind of full sent.
It was great for the content. I'm not gonna lie.
Good content.
Bloody loved it. But yeah, that's the next step I think for you is to that. But then again, if we're gonna sort of look at real motorsport and then of course sim racing, the drivers, you don't hear the drivers 100% of the time. You haven't got video feed to the drivers 100% of the time. As soon as they finish the race, you don't see them. Like you see them, but you don't actually hear what they're saying. You're literally in a self-produced interview for 3 hours while you stream it.
Yeah.
So everything you say is magnified. So again, I
Yep.
don't know, maybe I'm just nitpicking. But like I said, I'm a genuine fan of what you're doing, and I want to see you do well. So I probably should have saved this for outside of the driver
Nah,
spotlight.
it's good. Nah.
I can only apologise, ladies and gentlemen, who've watched this. But yeah, I don't know, I'm quite invested in Casey's journey. We're looking here now at the number 14 Napa car here. So this is the next season, I believe.
This is my rookie season in the DWC series. So that was cool. It was actually from B Wilkes, because I was still like before any of the official teams came in. The official teams came in last year in 2019. So 2018 we were still just our own like deal for teams, and but you could still get like sponsors here and there. Like most people would have like people that made like sim racing stuff and whatnot, or that kind of stuff. But it was actually B Wilkes knew a friend up north that like his dad had like a northeast like Napa thing, and we were able to pull in some. I mean, like you're talking like couple hundred, 300, like couple hundred, $300 you'd probably get of a sponsorship for the whole year. And yeah, so he knew someone that had like their dad had like a Napa store up there in the Northeast, and like got approval and got them to sponsor the car for most of the races. So, which was cool because it was like with that logo is one of the higher profile cars of the series.
Yeah,
so,
that's incredible. Like
yeah,
you,
but
you
that
helped
was cool.
someone out as well.
Yeah, and we had a couple other sponsors here and there, and then I think that I sent you the one where I'm like doing a burnout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the Clash. We have the Clash, which is like the exhibition race before the season starts that they do in real life, and then we do our own as well. And so that I won the Clash like coming in as a rookie. It's at Daytona, so take that for what it's worth. But I won the Clash as a rookie, so that's where that was. So it was like I came in, I was like, yeah, I just won the exhibition race, great. And then fortunately the rest of the year didn't go that way, but yeah, it was good. It was good first year though.
Yeah, no, well, just to get to that, like you told us about your little journey, of course, not able to qualify the first time out, coming 18th in the sort of qualifying groups, if you like, for someone like me who needs it in layman's terms, but then to finally qualify for the actual main series, that's an accolade in itself, right? That's all part of your development moving forward.
Yeah, it's the top words don't not good with them. Basically, it's the top 40 in the world, obviously. So it's just a huge thing in itself to be there. But yeah, and then like you'll run these normal races and you think what you can do there is gonna work. Like it's just a whole different thing because it's like 40 people of your caliber or more. Where normally if you're doing a normal like official race, you may have like at most 5 of that level.
Yeah, well,
so like coming through the field, anything like
they will
racing,
dive you. And they'll
insane.
expect you to hold your line, whereas in like normal series, like there's a little bit more leeway. It's kind of like, oh, I don't want to really risk that because I don't know what they're gonna do.
We'll run like an inch or two off of each other every single lap, but then in the other series you'll leave like a foot or two just to be safe with everyone else.
In terms of racing, like the Coke series, as you guys call it, I don't know how Coca-Cola haven't been pissed off with you guys, but yeah, we spoke about this last week. But yeah, like the racing is better than what they have in real life. Like it's quite scary, but obviously people aren't as invested yet in it because there's not the element of risk and all of that good stuff. But like, yeah, quite regularly you do 100 laps side by side with people, and it's just like nothing's happened.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is also like there's a pretty big equipment gap in the NASCAR side. Well, not as much in the Cup Series side, but in the Cup Series side you probably have 15 to 20 cars out of the 40 that can win on any day.
Yeah.
Well, let me phrase that. There's normally like 10 or so that can win on any day. Then another 10 that could still win if the other 10 like just have an off day. And then there's the 20 that there's pretty much no chance.
They're hoping there's 3 big whole field wrecks.
Yes. Or like they stay out right as it starts to rain and the race gets canceled or gets called because it's halfway through and then they win. which has happened before.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's for us. Like everyone's on the same equipment. I mean, there's besides setups, but I mean, there's never more than a tenth and a half difference in setups. Like we'll all qualify within a tenth and a half of each other. And then even now, since a lot of it's wide open, the only thing that really causes that tenth and a half, 2/10 difference is wind. So, um, yeah, it's just it's so dead even with everyone. And then also, yeah, like we don't have the whole risk factor. It doesn't cost money if we wreck. It's all
Balls
really
to
to
the
take
wall.
and nothing really to give if you wreck. So, um, yeah, it's just complete full send from lap one to the end.
We've got the infamous on two wheels at Sonoma here now.
Yes.
Talk us through this little picture. It's a beauty.
Yeah, so that's the top of the hill at Sonoma. It's always the best for screenshots whenever you race there because you can just jump that and do a nice two wheel like they do in real life.
Yeah, we don't because the
That was
picture doesn't show what happens afterwards.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you don't want to hit that. It's not good for speed. I can tell you off of experience. I had an issue with a curb like that later on in that year at the Roval, which we may get to at some point. But so that was the car from 2019. So we had official teams came in for 2019. Only 10 did, and each team gets 2 drivers, so half the series got picked, and there was a draft. So I can't remember all the teams. I'm sure there was a press release somewhere for it, but it was a nice mix. There were some NASCAR teams, like official NASCAR teams, and there were some teams that it was just the driver. Like for me, it was Clint Boyer Racing. So Clint raced for like Stewart Haas Racing, who they have a team now, but Clint has his own team, which is like his dirt late model in real life team. And so they did a draft, and it was a good mix. They had some esports works too, like Flipside and G2 and Renegades. So, but they came in and did a draft, which was cool. And I think I was picked 16, for Clint Boyer, which was cool. And I was glad I got drafted. And then later on in the year, I think it was another 5 or so teams came in, middle of the year, and would just kind of pick up the other people that were left. And then yeah, so it was cool. Got to race for Clint, and it's it's cool because like a lot of those teams, like there was like the Wood Brothers. It's like all these teams that you see in real life, and then they're getting invested in our stuff, and like people are running their cars. Like when Ray was running the infamous, like the 21 Wood Brothers car is one of the most, if not the most iconic car in NASCAR, and like Ray's running that in our series, or was last year. And then for me, it was a huge thing for me because I was a diehard Tony Stewart fan growing up.
Right.
And he drove the 14, and Clint drives the 14 for Stewart Haas Racing, which is Tony Stewart's team. So I was running like the same font and everything, number 14, in the series last year, which was really cool, and which meant a lot to me. And then like to win in that number was awesome. So that's why I was like Casey Kirwan 14 on Twitch, which is now changed. But yeah, it was really fun last year, and then that was my best year to date. So
Yes, that's awesome, man. Like, yeah, they say, what do numbers really mean anything? Yeah, absolutely they do. There's a lot of meaning in numbers. Like for me, it's and this is because of soccer, football. Like the number 8 is the number I love. The number 8 is just, I don't know what it is about it. Just always have done. And obviously you've got that with the number 14. But yeah, that feeling of winning, like. Again, it doesn't really matter what the car is at this point. It's like, oh, I had that 14 and I got across the line in first position. Like that's what it's all about. They don't go on about, oh, the blue and white car. It's always the number 14 car.
Yeah. So I even said that like in my whole like, I didn't say it in my interview after the race, but I know it came to my head afterwards. Oh boy, big barks, dogs barking.
That sounds like
half
a male dog.
Excited. Hold on. We have a doorbell ring. They're gonna they're quiet now. Anyway, so yeah. So where were we? What was I talking about again?
We were talking about crossing the line in that number 14 car.
Yes. So they didn't ask me in my interview, but then I thought about it like right after it, and then in my Twitter post I put that was like probably the thing that like meant the most. Well, not meant the most, but was one of the things that meant the most about winning that. Was that it was in the 14, which was really cool. So just because it was like my whole childhood when I was watching NASCAR, I was pulling for the 14. So it was cool. And in NASCAR's top esports series, that's the car that I won in. So
Yeah, man,
yeah, that was.
I fully understand that, and I'm sure a lot of people will understand that. Like the sentimental value of a number, especially in something like racing, is huge. Most sports, to be fair, because most sports you recognise numbers. It's either whether it be a team sport or an individual sport. Most sports have numbers involved. So yeah, to have the same font and everything like that is pretty obvious. Who you're thinking of. So that's awesome. To go. We're actually going to another number 14 car here. This is like the dirt oval Mustang car here. Those cars look so scary. Talk us through this.
Yeah. So that's the dirt late model, which I made the DWC for that so dirt has two DWCs. They have the sprint cars and they have the late models. Just because like real life, it's World of Outlaws, which is the series that endorses that series. The World of Outlaws is the biggest dirt racing thing across the United States, and they have a sprint cars division and they have late models. So there was a pro for each of that. And you would qualify to make one or the other, or you could qualify to make both. I only went for late models, and so that was in 2018, which that's when they just came out with like the dirt oval and dirt road licenses. So it was based off of like snake splits, so I didn't have to get my iRating up to try and make it.
Sounds perfect for someone like me.
Because every split was basically the same SOF, so it was just how you finish. And somehow, some way, still I didn't do a whole lot of dirt. Somehow I made it. Thankfully, I was friends with Zach Leonardi, who was the guy who ended up winning the inaugural championship. He races dirt late models in real life and was just one of the best when it first came out on iRacing. And thankfully, he hooked me up with good setups, and I was able to make it into the series off that.
So setups are huge with this series, then. I'm assuming.
I wouldn't say they're as big as in the Coke series, but they're still a big thing. So I made the series in 2018, it was a 10-week deal. And then I finished 10th in points, I think. And those are different because you got like heats and stuff, so you don't always make the big race. You don't always make the feature.
It's similar to World Rallycross that we have over here.
Yes.
In Europe, it's kind of mainly in Europe anyway.
Yep. So it's like 3 or 4 heats, and then you get like the LCQs and B mains and stuff like that. So so I think I missed the first race or two. I think I missed the first 2 features of that season, and then somehow, some way, ended up finishing like 10th in points. I think I finished 5th one race. I didn't really do a whole lot. And the thing with dirt, it's like I somehow made the series. I still don't even have 100 career starts on dirt oval. I think I have 89 or something, which 20 of were DWC now. Like I don't put a whole lot of time into it. It's kind of like my for fun thing. There's not because we just put so much time into the NASCAR side, and thankfully the guys that I work with over there, they're very kind that they still hook me up even though I don't do as much testing with them as I should. And so 2018 was the first year. Then 2019, which was last year, I was in the series again, and that's why I ran the same exact paint scheme on that as I did in the NASCAR series, because Clint Boyer, who drafted me on Clint Boyer Racing is an actual real life dirt late model team.
Oh, right. That's pretty handy.
So in the NASCAR side, on the NASCAR car was the exact paint scheme that they had in their late model, and then that exact paint scheme was then on my late model in iRacing. So, which I just asked them, I was like, it'd be cool to just run it in both. They were like, yeah, go for it. So, but and then I still, for the same thing, like we put so much time in the NASCAR side, I just don't like if I'm not streaming, then I'm normally testing, and then if I'm not streaming, then I'm normally like testing or trying to have some sort of like chill time. So then I just kind of use my chill time. So wouldn't even normally practice for those races until like an hour leading up to. I didn't put a whole lot of effort into it.
There's gonna be a lot of bitter people. They're like, oh my god, I spent weeks trying to get into that series, and then you just go, yeah, just turn up.
Yeah, I just didn't really like. I wanted to chill. Like I didn't want to have to be doing iRacing 24/7. Do it like 18/7. So,
Gotta
so
sleep.
I would kind of take some time to chill, and then like I said, thankfully to those guys, and there's Slick Simsport is the team. The dirt guys, they're very kind to me, that they still help me out with setups and stuff when I don't help them testing wise as much as I should. But it was cool, and that for me is kind of like my for fun thing. Like, let's see how well I do, and if I suck, I suck. Like, it's just kind of like I have no expectations. I have more of an expectation to be the slowest person there than being good.
So 2020 is going to be the same. You're going to try again?
Yeah, so I requalified barely.
Oh, amazing. So, Denny doesn't stop you from doing anything outside of the NASCAR then?
No, Denny's way
relaxed.
into it too. He like I did a Chili Bowl, which is like a big dirt midget race. I did one of those. I put like a picture on Twitter saying I was streaming. He even like commented on it. Was like, yeah, like go for it, man. He was like, let's see how this goes. Yeah, Denny's way into sim racing. So, but yeah, so then but last year, and it was pretty fun because I missed like 3 or 4 features, but somehow, some way, at one of the races at Eldora, this actually kind of started off when I kind of got hot in the summer in August. This was like the week before Bristol. I think it was the week before Bristol.
I'm still waiting to get hot in the summer.
Or 2 weeks before, or 2 weeks before Bristol. So we had a race at Eldora, which I don't know if you know anything about Eldora on the dirt oval side, but generally when the track like slicks off in the normal line, it goes to the fence where you run right against the fence.
Is this the one? Is this about this guy that ran the fence the whole race?
That
controversy from last year. Do you remember that though?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was in an official series, and he won the race by just going around on the fence.
Yeah, so I don't know if it. Do you mean like he was just slamming against it? And just
there was
wide open?
There was one point on the circuit where it didn't give an X, and you didn't get damage from it, and he's just using it on that corner every time, and it was like worth like 7/10 of a second or something silly like that.
I know, like in the late models, if you're running the fence, you'll actually want to try and hit it the right way, where it kind of just because you could hit it and it just kind of locks you into it, and if it locks you into it, you get a ton of drive, and if you can, but it's so hard because obviously if you hit it too hard, then you're gonna tail slap, and then so it's a super fine line, and that's why I suck at it. So that's why like I've been able to like qualify decent and like run good in the heat races, because normally that's when the track's not against the fence and it's a normal kind of like through the middle line or down on the bottom. I'm really, really good, or not really, really good, but I'm better on the dirt side if I'm on the bottom. I don't know why. It's just, people call that like catfishing, and I don't know why, but that's just where I'm best at. And I think probably from the NASCAR side, because we normally run like the bottom. We're not up against the fence normally.
Doesn't sound like you practice too much though, mate, as well. So like, you know, you've got your natural talent, but then when it gets to a little bit beyond that, it's kind of where you struggle.
So it's hilarious. So we did a Eldora race, and I made the feature. I started like 13th, and everyone's like, you can't pass at Eldora because it's so difficult when everyone's in a single file line when it gets to the fence, and if there's no openings, then you can't even throw like one of those slide jobs that everyone,
Yeah, but even if in single file, when they go around corners, you are sideways, so the car becomes twice as wide. So to make the overtake, so it becomes even more hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Even more difficult.
So, but for some reason, somehow, I was at one point in the race on one of the restarts. I went to the bottom and just found moisture down there, which is where people haven't run, so there's still a little bit more grip. And so I just found grip down there and just started railing. I drove through the field, went to like 3rd, was fastest car on track. I was like, what is this? And I drove to 3rd. And then finally, people behind me started realizing where I was running, and they started running it. And then eventually, it wasn't quicker than the top anymore. But then I was able to get to the top and still ran halfway decent. So I finished. Long story short, I'm rambling on. Finished 3rd, which was my best result, and by far in that series, which was $100. You know, take it.
Yeah, better than kicking in nuts.
Yeah, I think those races are like 300 to win, then like 200 for second, and then 100 for third. So. Yeah, because those races, that's the thing, there's not like a ton of money in it either, really. So that's why all the focus is in the NASCAR. But yeah, so I did that, and then I'll tell the story as quick as I possibly can. So it's hilarious how I made it back into the series for this year. So the top 15 requalify, and I was even saying like if I don't requalify, I probably won't go through the effort of trying to requalify, because obviously my I rating's really low because I made it in snake splits when you didn't have it needed to be high. I'd never race, right? So
yeah,
I wasn't gonna go through all the effort to farm I rating or anything.
It's a hobby.
Like that.
It's a hobby.
Yeah, it's like a hobby that somehow is quote unquote professionally. and so yeah. So long story short, I went into the final race 15th, like right on the cutoff. 15th stays in. I was 2 points ahead of the guy in 16th. We both made the feature, and we started right next to each other. And he drove to the front, like just took off from me.
Wow.
So long story short, I would have fallen out, but then I came to find out that the guy in 14th in points completely missed the feature. So I just in general, because I made the feature and
Just
he didn't,
finishing,
had more
yeah.
points
Just being in there, you earn points,
I,
right?
I got more points, so I passed the guy in 14th, even the guy in 16th passed me, so I finished 15th.
Wow.
So I still made it in for next year, barely.
That's amazing, though. But there's still like
Yeah.
two, like you say, same professional. I call them they're professional series for me. This is
Yeah.
they are the peak. Pardon the pun. They are the peak series in the world for that discipline. So for me, it's
Yeah.
a professional series, and to be able to compete, like it's so difficult right now. So when I first got to sim racing, Casey, it's a long time ago. It was the same names at the top end of the sim racing world, and it was all invite only to competitions. It was quite clicky.
Yeah.
And now, like, to be good at more than one discipline or more than one game is so difficult to be right at the top level. So, like, as much as you play it down, like, I don't practice, and like that's a hell of an accolade to be still racing at that level. And it's like, it's not like it's, for instance, you got IMSA and then you've got the GT3 Championship, ILMS on iRacing, which are both road. Like, this is bloody NASCAR and then a dirt oval. It's like completely different.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, you don't do yourself a disservice there, man. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I definitely feel proud about it, especially whenever I do good. But like I said, I just go into it, it's like, yeah, maybe I'll do good, or I could literally be the solo person here by 3/10. We'll see.
Well, it seems to be going pretty bloody well. So, yeah, fair play, mate. Like, I've never actually seen you do this. So, do you stream these events as well? Or is
Yeah. So they're in the summer. So last year they ran like, they did 10 weeks straight, because the way they did it the first year, it was like sprint cars would run 1 week, then we would run the next, then sprint cars, then us. But the way they did it last year, sprint cars ran 10 weeks straight in the spring, and then we ran 10 weeks straight in the summer. So it was a very short period that I did it. But yeah, I did stream them, and I plan on streaming them again.
Sweet, I look forward to that. So, something a little bit different. Now we head to, this is the win, the Bristol win in the number 14
Yes.
car. Like, this is a very cool promo pick here. So here it is. Talk us through it, Casey.
Yeah, so that race was so I can't remember if Pocono. I think so. So just words. So end of July was my best race. I finished second at Pocono. I almost won. I was leading on the final green white checkered. But the way we like set up the cars then, you would kind of set up to be pretty tight at a certain point to like be good long run, and I was in that phase of being tight. So long story short, the guy behind me was not, and drove right by me and won the race. But I still finished second, best result, and it was cool because it was like, which I don't know if you saw that in the rig pick, the like orange plushy thing on
Yep.
top of my monitor. That's an appendix. Because in 2018, the night before one of the DWC races, I had surgery to remove my appendix.
Christ.
So it's like, it was a running joke. Actually, my aunt was an absolute savage and gave me that plush appendix for Christmas, which was great. So now it sits up there. And yeah, so when I finished second at Pocono, almost won my first race. It was like the 1 year to the date of my appendix having the surgery. So that was cool. And then the next race was Michigan.
Just to throw this out there to people listening, again, second against the very best in the world. So
Yeah.
it's like huge. Sorry, Casey.
And that was huge for me. I freaking like cried on stream because like I sucked the whole year last year up until then. Like I was running, like I was happy with a 15th, and it was kind of like one of those like I don't want to be like irrelevant, even though I'm like still like 20th in points. Like to yourself, you're starting to think like like
I'm making up the
I'm
numbers.
irrelevant, not really doing anything, you know. Like I don't want to be the guy that runs 20th every week and stays in the series, you know. I want to actually do something. So I was like, so finishing second, it was just like a huge like sigh of relief, like when everything falls into place, I can do this. And then we go to the next week at Michigan, where I was battling for the lead again, and I think I was running 5th at the time when someone got turned onto my outside, hit me, damaged me, hindered the result. I think I finished like 15th due to like, I would have finished even worse, but due to like a late race wreck, I think I finished like 15th or something like that. But again, running up front, big confidence boost. Then we went to Bristol. I think I qualified like 7th, which was great for me because normally I qualify 20th or worse. I'm a horrible qualifier. So I qualified like 7th, and Bristol's one of the hardest places, if not the hardest place to pass. And yeah, and then just kind of I was running top five speed, probably like 4th or 3rd place speed. Didn't really have winning speed. And then it came down to about 100 laps to go, something like that. We did like a 5 or 6 lap run, and there was a caution. And that's one of those things because it's so hard to pass. You could stay out and maybe keep the track position.
Track position, yeah.
And but thankfully for me, I was like, I was in 3rd, I think, and I'm like, I'm doing the opposite, 3rd or 4th. I was doing the opposite of the leaders, and the top 2 stayed out, so I pitted, and thankfully the entire field came with me. So literally, it screwed the top 2 completely.
So you came out 3rd.
I came out 5th.
Oh, right,
I
okay.
think 3 people stayed out, and then 1 guy took 2 tires, and then everyone else was on 4. I was the first on 4, and then so with Bristol, with how banked it is, the top side can get pretty dominant. And so on the restart, I was 5th, and I'm like, heck, I'm stacked up behind the people that'll be slow on the old tires, and I'm on the bottom. Especially if you get stacked on the bottom.
Of course, you boxed in as well, yeah.
Yeah, so thankfully, the guy who restarted 6th got a really bad restart. So once we got to the start-finish line, because we can't change lanes until the start-finish line. Once we got to start-finish line, I went up, was safely able to get to the top, and got to 3rd, I think. And then it was a guy on old tires and a guy on 2 tires. And then mid-corner, they were both pretty slow, and I was able to dive middle 3 wide and pass them both.
Amazing.
And then there, I was just able to get clear so quick of them that they held up, absolutely held up the other people on 4 tires. And I took off. I had like a 2-second lead in like 10 laps, 15 laps, something like that, just because they got held up so much. And then, yeah, so it was probably like 60 to go, about or so, 70 to go. I can't really remember how much it was, but I remember. So if you run the top, because you're carrying so much speed and there's so much load and everything, that hurts your tires more, right?
Yeah.
But it's faster for a while. And then eventually into a long run, it'll even out bottom and top. But short run, it definitely is quicker. And Zach Novak, the guy who won the championship, got to 2nd. And I was like, I have a 2-second lead. I'm going to roll bottom as long as I can and just save tires, save tires, save tire. And I was like, I don't care. Like, if he runs me down from 2 seconds back until he gets here, I'm not going to move up. And he got it got to the point where I was running the bottom, again, what was still arguably slower, and he was barely starting to catch me. It was like hundreds to like thousands a lap instead of a 10th or 2. It was getting to the point where I was about to start pulling away again. This was probably like 30 or 40 to go. And then there was a wreck in front of me with lap cars. And they got dead sideways in front of me. And I went to the apron to miss it, but then they straightened up. They never got fully sideways where a caution came out. They straightened up. And I just checked up, rolled to the apron. And I thought, like, for sure it was like, you just normally, your natural reaction to think is there's a caution.
Yeah.
So I just kind of checked up and rolled down there. And then all of a sudden, by the time I realized there wasn't a caution, Novak was already by me.
Oh, no.
So I got going, and then I was like, well, there that went for like about a lap, like you said. And then I got angry. And so, and then I just got full sweaty, try hard, focused mode. And I ran like a few laps in the middle to bottom again. And then once it hit, I think it was probably 25 to go, 20 to go. I don't really remember. Just jumped to the top, and I just started running him got right to his bumper real quick. But then I had to pass him. So, and it was still difficult. Like, you go to the bottom, and to make the bottom work, you kind of have to have that arc, like, turn off the wall and carry all that momentum into the center on the bottom.
Yeah.
But if you're side by side with someone, then you have less of that because he's next to you. So it makes the bottom even worse. So to complete that pass is even harder than just being fast on the bottom. So I was struggling, but I was still getting close. I could get all the way to his door and stay there. I just couldn't complete it. And then we caught some lap traffic with like 8 to go. And I was just hoping like we could just catch someone that would just, because if you're side by side, then it really puts the lap car in a box.
Yeah, you want the lap car to box Zach into a position where he has to get off the gas.
And normally, and everyone has enough respect. Normally, if it's just you guys in a single file train, they'll just pull out of the way. But then Bristol's pretty narrow, so if we're side by side, whichever way he goes, they're in one of ours way.
Yeah.
Right? So that puts them in the box where they just have to keep their line,
You were just
which
praying. It wasn't you, right?
for most of them was the top. So thankfully I got to Zach, got side by side with him right as we caught someone on the top, and I was able to pin him in behind him and then clear him, and then I just took off for the final like 3 laps and then won, and then screamed profusely and blew everyone's eardrums out that were watching.
If I can tell by the
My streak.
excitement, like how much that meant to you.
Yeah, it was
it's-
huge.
As much as you've only been doing this for a short while, just merely because of your age, but it's still been a hell of a long journey to get to that point. And it must have just the relief
Yeah, that was the huge
there
thing.
was probably. And it sounds like you're a bit like me. You've got the fear of losing.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's a huge fear. It's
Not really the fear of losing, but more just like the fear of just like I want to be there to like compete for wins, not be the guy that's good enough to run 15th every week.
Yeah.
So like, cause you could still be in the series, like finish top 20 in points, running 15th every week. I just don't want to be that. Like I want to be
That's
like one of the guys competing for wins.
That's going to change though, because with the draft system, new people are going to be coming in each year. So you do. I'm going to throw this out there. I think you need to be running top 10 week in, week out, realistically, if you're going to be wanting to stay in this series.
Well, it is still like top 20 in points requalify.
Right. Okay.
So that's the thing. I don't know if we haven't touched on 2020 yet, but it went to like free agency. So the people that'll come out of the Pro Series go into the free agency with us next year.
Right.
So but then obviously we're the ones that are not proven. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you're in a doctor's surgery now, which is good.
Oh, you hear my phone ringing?
Yeah, it's all good, man. Don't worry. Right, so we're now going to go to a picture here with you, Keegan, and Denny. So you signed for Denny Hamlin Racing, and as someone who
Yes.
is a huge NASCAR fan, how the hell did that feel for you?
Yeah, so that was big. And that was one of the coolest things. So this year went to a free agency period. Also, like I said, I think it was 5 teams last year came into the series midway through the series. Like Austin Dillon's team did, Jim Beaver Esports did, a couple other teams. And so they came in halfway through, and then another five came in this year. Virtual Racing School got a team. Denny Hamlin got a team. Kyle Larson, another NASCAR driver, got a team. William Byron, another NASCAR driver, got a team. And then Stewart Haas Racing, which is one of the biggest NASCAR teams, got a team as well. So that gave them the full 20 teams. Every team is 2 people. That's the full 40 card grid. So the full free agency period opened. It opened like December 20th. It happened during like Christmas time. Opened, and obviously like we could discuss with our old teams, like all that stuff, and it was like full blown like discussing like salaries and stuff like that, bonuses, all that kind of stuff. And which was just already in itself kind of crazy to think of, because like 2 years ago, 2018, my first year, the total prize pool was like 17 grand, and now this year the total prize pool is like over 300 grand, and some of us are getting pretty decent salaries, and bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, then the free agency period was cool because, like I said earlier, being a diehard Tony Stewart fan, my first phone call in free agency was Stewart Haas Racing.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, this is just crazy. And then I got got contacted by some other teams, and yeah. So long story short, basically, kind of how it worked out. I finished 10th in points last year. The top like 8 or so guys went really quick. And then some of the big prospects out of pro, like Graham Bolin, some of them, they were getting called up a lot, just because they're very good. Like Graham is really good, came out of pro.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like sitting there, and then all of a sudden I knew it was like gonna happen. Like once the top guys are gone, then everything's gonna like then it would probably like a bunch of it would come to me, since I was like right below them. It all happened in one day. Like I think I got emailed from like half the teams in like the same day. And but then I got a text from this number, and it was like, "Hey, are you still available?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I was like, "Cool, this is Denny Hamlin." I'm like, "Okay, cool, great."
Yeah, wicked.
And then he was like, "Yeah." So, and then one of the craziest things about it is whenever Denny announced his team, he put up like a Twitter video. And Denny was a huge sim racer. Like he did like NASCAR, like NR 2003, same stuff that like Dale Earnhardt Jr. did.
I'd love to have a chat with him about his like sim racing, real racing career. I did David Perel That went live today, actually, or well, not today. This is going out Wednesday, but Monday.
Yeah.
And he's obviously a world champion in the endurance series over here in Europe. So I'd love to hear Denny's experiences in sim racing. But yeah, back to you, of course. After you've received
Yeah.
the
So
text.
so he put out that video. Well, but when the day free agency opened, he put out the video like announcing his team, and he was like, "Oh, and by the way, I'm bringing along a friend with me." And then it cuts, and you see the Jordan logo because he's good friends with Michael Jordan.
That's amazing.
And so you see the Jordan logo. It's like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be sponsored by Jordan. This car is gonna be sponsored by Jordan. So I get a text from him, and it was like, yeah, like he was like, I know you probably are talking to other people, whatever. Like I'll get you an offer soon. So and I had a couple other offers that I was going to talk with other people, and then Denny, it was basically, and I got a text back. It was like, gave him the whole offer, and then he was like, and then at the very end, I see, oh yeah, this is Michael Jordan's 23 car. It's like, oh, okay. So
Yep.
we talk about numbers, right?
Yep.
Sheesh.
Done.
So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then you get a pretty nice hookup with all the Nike and Jordan stuff too, along with it. And yeah. So it was very quick, and it was basically like there's other people available still, and basically I want a very quick yes, and he got a very quick yes. And then and then Denny's way into it. He's super cool, and so I signed with Denny.
I had no idea that Jordan was a sponsor for the team. Like from your streams,
Yep.
you'd never know it was.
Yeah. No, so yeah, and that was the thing with Keegan. Like Keegan has his whole sponsorship by himself too. So like he has his own sponsor. That's why like his car still has like the kind of the Jordan elephant print on it. But then it says Direct Force Pro, which is like that wheelbase that VRS makes is the sponsor. So
That's good
yeah,
that he's
so
allowed to continue with that.
So I got the full-blown Jordan car, which is crazy.
Wow, and as if by magic, there it is. Wow.
Yes.
It's the best looking car on the grid. It's a fact.
It's a beaut. It is fabulous. Yes. Yes. JD, my graphics guy. Because Denny was like working on some schemes. Then JD Layered, JDR Graphics. Nice plug. If you ever need paint schemes, great. He's my graphics guy. He does all my stream overlays and everything too for me.
Yeah, very nice overlay stuff.
And he whipped something up because he did I had him, like I said, I mentioned that chili bowl, and I had him make me a midget, and then he was like, heck, while I'm at it, I'll just do the same kind of design, and he put it on a car, and I was like, hey Denny, like if you like this, just like he could say no, like I just sent it to him. I was like, if you like it, and he was like, this is amazing, I want this. So he had JD whip up the whole car. Had JD do Keegan's car too. So it was cool.
You can see it's the same as a Bristol picture, like of you winning. Like you can see the lines interjecting with each other and stuff. Like it's a really cool design.
Yeah. So it's it's pretty crazy. But yeah, Denny's way into the whole thing. He texts me all the time. Like he texts me after Auto Club, like after that race about how I used up all my tires. He was like, yeah, you were driving it deep. He's cool. He's way into it. So
that's really good to hear. Like we're seeing a lot of big names in real world motorsport. And again, my opinion on this is that I think that sim racing should be a completely separate entity to real world motorsports. That's just how I am. I understand that it's good to have a series just like NASCAR that is pretty much replicating the real stuff. But we're seeing a lot of real world racing drivers getting involved because it's maybe a get rich quick scheme, which it definitely isn't. But they're kind of thinking, oh, how much of an influence can we gain from this by being involved? But then you get other people like Denny who is just genuinely invested in sim racing, and they really want to see this succeed, and they also want to see two drivers, or maybe potentially more in the future, actually make a career from this. Like you can just tell from the social posts, I can just tell by your voice, Casey, that he cares about you and Keegan. He wants you two to do well for the team. Which is really, it's not, I say refreshing. There's quite a few involved in sim racing these days that are like that. But then there's also, for the lack of a better term, they're in it for themselves. They're not in it for anything other than their own.
Yeah, and
personal
even like
gain.
with the draft thing last year, some teams they literally did nothing. They just kind of like, yeah, we want to be in it. That was it. Like, They had their name on the car, and they didn't post half the time. Like,
no, but that's the thing.
that was it. There's
They
no
do
involvement.
not. They don't do any social media, and it's just like, well, that's the only
Yeah.
way you're really going to gain from this. It's kind of like they don't understand that in actual fact they need to put the work in to gain the most themselves. I don't know. It's ignorance at the end of the day. It's such a new entity as well, so it kind of makes sense in the respect that there is ignorance. But you can see, like, he didn't have to get Jordan involved in this, and he has, and like that's become for me one of the biggest stories. Even before anyone had touched the pedal, like Jordan, a sponsor in a car in this series, like that's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
And he's a huge race fan, and Denny says all the time about like Denny texted him about it whenever he was having a team, and he told us that story. Like he told I think if I'm telling this right, he texted Michael and told him that he wanted him to be on the car, and like MJ immediately like went to his designers to like have stuff whipped up.
amazing. That's really good to hear.
And MJ's a big race fan. Like he's gone to a bunch of Denny's races and stuff, so it's cool.
And you know that's mainstream. That's the biggest of the mainstream. Like Michael Jordan is the Rock level mainstream. To have that in sim racing, like that just shows for people like me who are basically just a nerd for racing. Like that's my job description, just a sim racing nerd. Like that's huge. That blows my mind that is happening right now. 3 years ago, we were barely getting 2 or 3, and obviously you're more of an American-based sim racer with the ovals and stuff like that, but I've been involved in sim racing for such a long time that we were barely getting any LAN events. Like, the thought of a draft was just ridiculous. You're more likely to get a giraffe to turn up to an event than actually have a draft. Like, it's as ridiculous as that may sound. That's how it was. And now we're seeing, like, iRacing. And iRacing were quite slow to the party as well in terms of sim racing events outside of their own game. It was almost like they just didn't care. And now they've just gone, well, here you go, and slapped it on the table. And it's like, okay, cool. Yep, they're here. And, you know, the series is amazing. The commentators are amazing. Well, I'm actually a commentator. That's my job. So to hear them, they're brilliant at what they do. I think they probably need to be given a little bit more freedom for it to for the show to really become what it should be. But yeah, they're amazing. The actual broadcast is fantastic. The talent on show is the best you could actually, like. We're always trying to progress. I don't think that could ever get any better. Like, the actual racing is as good as it's ever going to be. Like, it could never be any better than that. Obviously, you're in the car, Casey, but could it get any better? I don't think it could.
Yeah, I don't know if it really could. Obviously, I mean, like, if some people like fall out, then they're just gonna have just as good people come in and put on the same show.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean, like, the only thing is going to happen is it's going to become more competitive, and there's going to be more wrecks.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be the more money involved, the more risks are going to be taken. So right now, I think it's at its peak in terms of as a show. But then everyone has a bit of controversy as well. So then, you know, people don't mind the old yellow flags coming out every now and again. I'm really excited to see your future, mate. I really am. I think you're the perfect age for this as well. I think the world's your oyster. It's going to become huge. I think that NASCAR, specifically NASCAR, I think that's going to be the first $1 million competition in the world. I really do. I can see that happening with people like Jordan involved as well, like with Coca-Cola being involved, the way that they're dealing with the broadcast, the way that's getting onto national television. I don't see why that's not going to happen. And like I say, you're 20 years old. You are in a prime position to make an absolute fortune from this. As long as you keep your feet on the ground, and as long as you apply yourself to these things correctly, and I don't think you've got a better mentor than someone like Denny Hamlin. So I think you're in a good spot if that's going to be long term as well. So I guess we come to the final few questions here. Really, who is the best driver, do you think, outside of yourself, and let's say outside of your teammate as well? Just so we can take any controversial things out of this. Because you can always tell him then, well, I was going to say you, but I couldn't. So outside of you and your teammate, who's the best driver in that series?
Ryan Luza.
That was quick.
Ryan Luza, pure speed-wise. It's close between him and Ray. Ray's insane, obviously. I mean, he's a 4-time champion. And he beat Luza, for the championship in 2018, but I mean, Luza's just so insanely fast. And Ray is too. Some of it, like with this package, the reason this package with it being more like high downforce, low horsepower, setups are just a huge thing. And then like with Auto Club, if you notice, like we're not lifting a whole lot. Like there's not, it's it's not that we don't make a difference. It's just that like we're not making a difference in the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it used to be literally like you could make all the speed in the world with driving with, because those cars were so like they had like a freaking 2-inch spoiler, like you could barely see it. Now we have like an 8-inch spoiler and 200 less horsepower. So the cars are way easier to drive, but it's a whole lot more about the actual like racing and like where to position yourself and stuff like that. And then it can also lead to a lot more of a like, not crapshoot per se, but a lot more out of your hands. Like, for instance, if you had winning pace and you get caught by a caution during your green flag stop and it puts you back to 25th, it's a whole lot harder to make that back up now than it was then. Just because of dirty air and everything like that too. So it's just there's so many more factors that can make a driver not be shown, but the driver is still very much important in a different way, obviously. But I still think loses the best speed wise, and then Ray is still really good as well. He's a really close second in my opinion. But yeah.
If we're being realistic, there's 40 drivers that are incredible. Like,
yes,
it's hard to choose between those specific 40. You don't have to answer this one. I like a bit of controversy. But who's the one driver that, when they pull up alongside you or you pull up behind, that you think, oh god, here we go?
You can look at my Auto Club race and see what we were all. There was.
I know the answer to this, so.
You can see.
Yeah. Okay.
You go to my Auto Club race and go to after the first pit stop, up until the first caution. It's in there a couple times before then.
So we'll leave it at that one, shall we?
We'll leave it at that.
Okay, so
it's on YouTube.
In 2 years' time, where do you see yourself in the sim racing world?
Hopefully, still streaming, still doing this. This is like my quote unquote job, because it's fun. It's a fun time.
I don't think you'll be needing quotation marks for that statement in a couple of years' time, mate.
Yeah. Hopefully still in the series and with great people like Denny and with Jordan. That'd be great. And hopefully, I mean, obviously the dream is to win the championship. So maybe champion, but I don't know. I mean, hopefully just still successful in the series, whether that's champion or just a constant contender for wins. That's where I hope to be in 2 years. So.
Great stuff. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is Casey Kirwan, a driver in the eNascar Racing Series for Denny Hamlin Racing, with Jordan 23 on the side. Again, I am very, very chuffed that you've come onto the show. I am genuinely a fan of you, not only on the track, but off the track as well. Like, you're just a really nice lad, actually, to be fair. And you're very, very entertaining to watch. That is 100% for sure. So, yeah, I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Driver Spotlight number 7 done. It's one of the longer ones, but there's a lot of information there that you guys will indeed find interesting. Again, let me know in the comment section who you'd like to see on next. I'm going to try my absolute best to keep the caliber of talent as high as possible, which we have done thus far in this series. But yeah, thank you very much, Casey. I really appreciate it. Maybe we'll do a follow-up on this in a couple of years' time when you are the very, very best in the world and you've won millions of pounds. And, of course, I get my 10% share that we've agreed on.
Yes. Hopefully. Yes. Thank you, though. Thank you for having me. It was a fun time.
No worries.
Good chat.
Yeah, good old chat. Again, it's really early in the morning for Casey, so, like, fair play to him. But, yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Driver Spotlight number 7. We'll be back, I guess, in another couple of days. I'm not too sure who we're on next. We've kind of used all the resources, used all the list of what I had so far. So I'll just go around and send a few messages out and see who we can get on. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Actual Vision, and I shall catch you all next time. Bye-bye.